Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 7th day of August, 2023. Well, tomorrow's our Lion's Gate energy, 8-8. It was cool when it was 2008, then you had 888. I like to look at it as developing strength and growth and all of that. Kind of gives you that dual energy. Let's go ahead and take our rune for the Elder Futhark rune for the above side of things. See how we're going to start things out today. Significators are the overall focus of the reading, hopefully. Here we have Manaz. Manaz is about the individual within society. The rune right before it is called Ewaz, and it just looks like an M. And this adds Dagaz in the center to it. It's very complex bind rune, really. Let me move forward here a little bit. But basically, it's the individual within society, whereas Ewaz is coming together in harmony with somebody else. And so this expands it outward a little bit more. It's the thought rune. It's about memory, but to me, it's more about ancestral memory or shared memory, as opposed to just how we remember things. Also, it's about integration. The key word is man, which I would rather just say humanity, but as opposed to, bringing it down to a particular gender. But in a patriarchal world, that's what happens, right? But anyway, let's take a look at the, so there's something today anyway about integration, a higher level of integration with people, not ego-based, but having to do with our shared tradition, our shared experience, getting really close to Othala. Manaz would be the 20th rune of the Elder Futhark, and so you're getting really close to Othala, which in a sense represents the Akashic record of our lives collectively. That's one interpretation you can have for it. Okay, so we have, for the Geomancy rune, we have Vaya, or a new path. Via as opposed to populace. Populace is kind of going with the crowd, but this is setting your own course. So there's something about then taking a different path in terms of integration with others than what you've done before. Maybe this implies that you're leaving a structure that or relationships that aren't working for you and setting off on your own course, or it could mean that you are actually heading down the path of integration with others. So let's just see what the cards have to say, and maybe it'll give us a little bit of an idea of exactly what direction that's going. But it's likely that you're making the choice to integrate with other people, and you're taking maybe a path that's maybe not been the best for you, even if it is leaving a group of people or relationships behind that are just no longer working or no longer relevant in your life. Maybe they've been unsatisfying for a long time, and finally you're just ready now to see the wisdom of moving forward in a different direction with respect to how you integrate with other people. And I just think it's probably with Manaz, you're talking about a higher form of that. You've got Dagaz in the center of it. In fact, before we take the cards, let me see if I can find a piece of paper here. And I'll show you how Manaz basically is created, the different runes that are within it. So here you have Manaz. In the center, you have Gebo, the X. And that's the gift. It's the gift of reciprocity or of balanced energy exchange with other people. It's partnership, it's marriage. You terminate the ends and you have Dagaz, which is the end of one phase and the beginning of another. And that's why I say maybe there's something about the path you're on that you need to just maybe alter a bit and take a little bit different direction. So that would be the idea of one phase ending and a new one beginning. You also have Vunyo, forward and reversed, which is Vunyo is about, that's over here, this P. Vunyo is about uh, fellowship and joy with others, again, from a higher perspective. You also have Laguz, forward and reverse, which is flow and spirit. And then you have Isa, terminating both ends here, which is a Norn rune for the present moment. It's also alignment and higher consciousness. So again, I think that there's something about that's a higher consciousness resonance, maybe, that you're being drawn to. You could look at it that way. That type of integration with other people, more of a soul level that's expressed into form versus merely reactive ego stuff that might draw you to one group of people or another. So maybe you've just realized that that's not really where I want to be, and I'm going to do something else today. So let's go ahead, and I've already shuffled a bit today before starting. Let's go ahead and cut the cards, cut the deck. Got a bunch of crystals everywhere here on the table, and we'll take 3 cards from the lower half of the deck. 1, 2, 3. We have the Ace of Cups, and then we have 2 cards from Swords, the 8 and the 4. And there's something about the swords here that are similar to what we had on Thursday of last week. We had some transition going on with death, and we had the 8 of Cups and the 6 of Swords. And it seemed to me, and the way I interpreted that, is both the 8 of Cups and the 6 of Swords were kind of saying the same thing, where the 8 of Cups was letting go of things that no longer, emotions that no longer serve, and moving on irrespective of the challenges. Well, the same is true with the 6 of Swords. You're taking a journey over water, and the water, for the most part, it's all iced over, and other than where the boat is being pushed through. But you have a family that's moving on to something new, maybe, and they've got all of their plans, and right there in the boat you see the 6 swords pointed downward. So those are their plans and their ideas of what's going to happen when they get there. Maybe there's a job to go to or something like that. But there's still an element of unknown, and the emotions are being taken out of it. It's more of a rational decision. So I kind of looked at those two together as basically describing the same thing, only one is from the water element and one is from air. And so water element is your emotions and movement, change, empathy, all of that. And then the swords would be the air element, which would have to deal with all the intellect and communication and rational decision making, justice, fairness, balance, that kind of stuff. And you can see where the two of them kind of go together when you're having some kind of transformation or transition from one state to another, and it's covering both sides of the equation, really, I think. Because it's always emotional to make a change like that, isn't it? And then you have to have some plans about it. You can't just, jump in feet first. You've got to actually plan it all out. So the two seem to dovetail nicely. And maybe with the 8 of Swords and the 4 of Swords, these might do the same. But let's go ahead and look at the ace first. Now, the aces in the decks, in the different suits, they essentially contain all aspects of that suit in one card. They're Genesis cards. They're the cards of new beginnings. Here you see the Dove of Peace dropping a disc into a golden chalice with, it has a cross on it. And I view the cross as an alignment. It's aligning spirit with form, basically. And here we have the hand reaching out from the unseen cloud. You see that in every ace card in the Rider Waite. And as the Dove of Peace drops that disc in, and we don't know how many the dove has dropped in, you're seeing 5 streams of water come out of the cup itself and nourishing the pond below. So this is a new emotional genesis, new emotional awakening, if you will. Something, you can bring it down to compassion and empathy and maybe change, momentum. But basically, how I tend to see the Ace of Cups is we have a new way of seeing things emotionally. If it were the Ace of Swords, then it would be a new way to see things rationally, maybe, or to take a stand for yourself or something like that. To be able to express yourself in balance and wisdom and justice and all of that. But with the Ace of Cups, this is about love and generosity and kindness and compassion. And so maybe the group that you're being drawn to is one that maybe exhibits more of that than maybe the other group did. Maybe the other group was very negative or something. And now you're realizing that you want to be something part of something that's bigger than yourself, that focuses on love and compassion and peace and generosity and kindness and spirituality and all of that. So, because perhaps you've been bound by your own perceptions with the 8. 8 is a number of strength. It's also a number of material recognition and approval and of leadership and of greater harmony. But sometimes we just get in the way of ourselves. It could be that she's turning off the noise of all of the conversation around her, but this could also be she's going within by blindfolding herself and binding herself this way. She's turning off the noise of her own thoughts and her own perceptions. You can see she's standing in kind of wet sand. The tide has come in, but it's also gone out. You see the castle appear on the cliffs. I don't know if you can see any. No, there aren't any boats visible. So there's an emotional component to this. There's with the cliff here with the castle on top. You can see that as maybe some challenges she's had in her life, maybe. With respect to where she grounds herself, essentially. But she's letting all that go. She's turning off the noise. She's turning off whether it's from others or from her own thoughts. And she's going within to find her solution. To find a way to maybe think more rationally about things. And again, if it's moving into a menace type of a relationship with others, where you understand that integration of fellowship and joy and balanced energy exchange and flowing in spirit and aligning in spirit, your own source presence, maybe you're moving in that direction here. You realize that's a more comfortable place to be with other people that are like-minded that way. As opposed to people maybe that are about conflict or negativity or something like that. It just seems like it's just this big shift, especially with the Ace of Cups coming in. And again, I look at the aces as, given their strength, excuse me, I also kind of give them the same sort of weight I give the major arcana. Not completely. Major arcanas are soul archetype cards, but I think that this is the genesis of the expression of soul in form. And what we do with that in cards 2 through 10, as well as the court, sort of defines our experience here. And so that's, I guess, why I give the aces a little more weight than the other small cards or minor arcana. Lastly, we have the 4, which is half of 8. So you see that pattern there. And excuse me, and you see a casket with the individual created for who's inside on top. But we can look at this in terms of respite, letting your thoughts settle, letting them come to rest. So again, you can make it the best decision for yourself. And what the suggestion there again is taking a new path toward a better type of integration with other people. One that's loftier, one that's more joyful and loving and integrated with one another. But you see it's like a monastery or a mausoleum or something. It's like a mausoleum. It's probably like a mausoleum. But here you have the stained glass window, making it. It's probably his final resting place. So there's some religious aspect to it. You see the one sword horizontal here and the others pointing down to form. So it's not that someone has died. It's just that you're letting everything settle out and come to rest and let all your thoughts settle. so that you can then maybe we can take a fourth card here, but we can, hopefully it'll say something about the outcome of this. But it suggests that the outcome really is the man-as experience, where you're more integrated with others in higher purpose, or just a more loftier sense of interactions with them, as opposed to a more ego-based one. But let's take the 13th card. Well, we have the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is an interesting woman. She's an older woman in authority, obviously, as the queen. She's somebody who seems to be beckoning people to come to her. You see a raven possibly up in the sky, or it could be any kind of a bird. If you had two, and it was a man, it was the king, then I would interpret this as Odin, and his ravens, thought and memory, are Hugin and Munin. But here you have a woman, the queen, sitting on a throne, beckoning people to come toward her. She holds her sword upright, and she's expressing justice, basically. Let's see if we can talk about what she's wearing. Well, she's got a cape on with clouds, and they have clouds on them, and she doesn't. The Queen of Swords doesn't take prisoners. She doesn't enjoy people who lie to her. She doesn't want any kind of nonsense. She doesn't suffer fools. She's somebody who demands that you be honest with her and demands no deception at all. And you can see the darker clouds. In a sense, she's cutting through that deception with her sword upright. And so there may be something about the path you were on that involved deception of other people, or of an individual who maybe was charismatic and was saying all this stuff, and this group was following that person or something, and none of it was true. And so now maybe you've decided you want to take a new path in a much better, more positive integration with other people, one where you can trust the situation and not be so pulled in a direction of that basically helps out somebody else's agenda. Supports someone else's agenda that really isn't being honest to begin with. So again, we've got 3 cards of swords here, and one of the Ace of Cups, and it's got to be a new way of looking at things. Sometimes, again, with the Suit of Swords, you're looking at deception. Here, this could be self-deception. Maybe the things that she's thinking about on her current path really is based on a bunch of stuff that isn't true, and so she's deluded herself, or maybe others are trying to delude her, and she's literally turning off the noise of all of it and rejecting it all out of hand and going within to find higher purpose and higher awareness and higher wisdom. And you have to maybe, and we could have probably put the 4 in the center here and went from the 4 to the 8, where she basically let her thoughts come to a rest, and she made that decision to then go and turn off all the noise around her, including her own thoughts, all self-deception, and come to some kind of understanding of what the truth really is. And again, she invoked her inner queen here, her inner Queen of Swords, to do that. By going within, turning off the noise, not allowing anything to deceive her any longer, including her own thoughts, she's able to cut through all of the nonsense and come back with the attitude of, okay, come at me, but you better be honest about whatever you have to say to me. I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to be part of your life. I'm willing to counsel you, but not if you're going to give me a bunch of garbage, and I'm not going to listen to it any longer. And so I think that's what I want to do. I think I want to put the 4 first, then the 8. So we'll go from the Ace to the 4 to the 8 to the Queen. And in doing so, I think that we've defined this as, in fact, we could even put the Ace of Cups at the end. You know what? Let's do that. Let's put the ace at the end and read it this way. Here we have the you're letting your thoughts come to rest. You're not being influenced by anything anymore. And you make that an even bigger deal by binding yourself to yourself, basically, and turning off the noise around you, both inside and inside you and outside, externally. You've decided that you're not going to deal with any more deception. It's whatever path you've been on, whatever group you're hanging with, there's a lot of deception and nonsense and you're tired of it. And it's like, I'm not going to go there anymore. And then from there, what's born is the genesis of new emotional awareness, where more empathy, more compassion, more love, more joy, more peace, more reciprocity that you'll have with Menas on your new path. Let's see, 4 and 8 is what, 12, so that's 3, plus 1 is 4. It really, the overall numerology, the cards then, it really, and if you were to add the 20 to that, that'd be 2. You reduce that to 2, so 4 and 2 is 6. If you look at 6 as empathy and assistance and guidance and shared experience or a shared path, that would definitely, if you look at the 6 that way, then you're also dovetailing with Manas as well. It just seems to me that you've been experiencing maybe some deception in your life. It may involve a group of people you're hanging around with, or just 1 or 2 people, whatever. And you're just, something's off with it. It's not feeling right anymore. And it's just way too negative, maybe too conflict based. And where everybody else is the enemy kind of thing, or something where you're just not comfortable with it anymore, that type of integration. You don't feel right within it. And so you let your thoughts, you get away from it all with the 4, you let your thoughts settle a bit, you make a decision to then look within with the 8 and decide, well, I'm not going to be influenced by even my own thoughts, my own perceptions, or the perceptions of other people. I'm not going to be influenced by any of that. I'm going to go within and I'm going to let higher counsel basically provide the wisdom that you need to make a better decision. And the decision you make is you're not going to tolerate any injustice. You're not going to tolerate any kind of deception any longer. You're going to demand that people tell the truth. You're going to demand that level of higher wisdom and honesty and integrity that you're not getting otherwise. And from there, you learn to express compassion and joy and love in a better way. That's what you're being drawn to, that new expression of emotional awareness. And from there, you can find a different group of people maybe that you can align with, and you understand that you have a part in, and just not even in terms of a group, but in terms of being integrated in humanity alone. It just seems like the existential question we answer is, where do we fall on that continuum? Do we fall in the area of the soul or of spirit, of higher awareness, or do we devolve into the lower vibrational ego response, which doesn't get us anywhere? It just creates more nastiness and more division. Whereas with Manas, that's an integrated, unified experience or expression where you have others coming together in a way that is positive and fruitful and loving and kind and generous and integrated with one another in a higher resonance than what some of the stuff we're experiencing now is. You would think that in terms of justice, that would only bend one way, but it depends on someone's perspective on it, doesn't it? You'll have attorneys and judges that, I don't know where the heck they went to law school, but they don't seem to be, talking about what's real. They don't seem to understand the Constitution. They don't understand any of that side of things. And so it's like, well, how did you get there? How did you get out of law school thinking these things? Surely somebody must have noticed, but maybe not. Maybe just over time, their experiences, their attitudes, they get shaped in a way that they no longer hold that higher type of justice in their hands. They come from a different place. And so I think that when you see the amount of deception and lying going on in our world today, it doesn't surprise me that we would have a reading with three swords where you've got to rethink things. And then the queen defines it all by saying, yeah, we're not going to have any more deception. We're going to have some integrity, some honesty, and all of that. And when we do that, see, then we can come together in a much more unified, emotional, loving type of way that you see expressed with manas. So that's interesting. Nice way to start a Monday. But sometimes when truth is revealed, it gets things clear. Especially if it's a truth that you have not been accustomed to knowing, and you get going down a path and we'll say a path of beliefs, path of perception, and you really think you're onto something, and then all of a sudden it all comes tumbling down, and you realize, no, that's not really true, and the truth matters, and the truth causes a shift in you to want to then reevaluate things. And I think that that's what we're seeing here with both the 4 and the 8. It's just that you see with the 4, it's one level of more of a solitary type of a going within and stepping back and rethinking things, to a bigger way of doing that with the 8. You can kind of see that this is a little more solitary, but here this could include other people. I mean, the swords here could be other voices coming in. And again, if this is how she's been living her manas experience, that's not doing it for her anymore, because she realizes something isn't right. And the queen reinforces that it wasn't something right, and you need to demand honesty from people. You need to demand integrity from people, and when you do that, then it's this whole new emotional awareness comes into play, and from then you can integrate in a really balanced way with others, and one that's based on truth and honesty and higher awareness and wisdom. So I like this reading. That's cool for a Monday. Well, my beans are starting to produce out in the bean hut. The ones in my pots and out in the gazebo, they've already been, but I picked beans that were this long. They're fillet beans, so they're not the real. I mean, if you leave them there, then yeah, they're going to grow a bunch of seeds. Actually, not that many, this variety, but it's not your usual. I mean, if you pick the usual pole beans early, then they're not so stringy and fibrous and all of that. I don't like that. That's why I always used to grow bush beans, because you could grow the fillet type, and they weren't like that. Well, I found some fillet that are pole beans, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's really cool to go out there and, have it all growing up around you. You get to walk through it and see all the beans hanging down. And so every other day now for a while, I'll be picking beans, which is cool because we grow enough for the winter. And I think the peas are getting done. I just put up some peas and this weekend, and we're going to eat the beans this first little batch. But so lots of things happening in the garden. The corn is getting close, some of it, and so we'll be picking corn, and zucchini's going crazy. The cucumbers are too, but we've only harvested one. So when they're starting to create some cucumbers though. So as soon as that gets going, I don't even know how many. The chickens will be getting probably most of it. So they love that. They had so much yesterday. They had lots of different things. They're starting to molt a little bit, some of them. So we scrambled them up some eggs, and that gives them some additional protein that's actually from them. And it helps in molting. Also gives them more protein, which is always good. So they got some of that, and they got zucchini and borage and just all kinds of stuff from the garden, some pea pods and all of that. So they were just stuffing themselves silly yesterday. It was fun to watch. We always take pictures, so you know. But anyhow, that's what's been going on at my house. I hope that if you've got gardens, they're being successful and productive, and you're enjoying yourself out there in the garden area. There's just nothing like watching things grow. And I I got my husband to weed eat in my herb garden, my medicinal herb garden area. So now I can walk through there, and so I'm starting to harvest some more stuff, St. John's wort flowers, and I've gotten some wood betony and some mugwort and some motherwort and all of that. So it's and some comfrey, harvest some comfrey. There's also some meadowsweet out there, lavender. Ella campaigns coming up everywhere now. Valerian always comes up everywhere. So there's lots of things to do everywhere with respect to the gardens on our property. And so it's an exciting time. So I hope you have that same experience and it's exciting for you too. So anyway, thanks for watching. And if you haven't yet clicked subscribe, I hope you'll do that and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.